We defeated ISIS. We killed the world's top terrorists. We secured our borders. We achieved energy independence. We stood up to China. We protected Israel. We made peace in the Middle East with the Abraham Accords, and more. We did things like nobody ever heard of.
So that's the former President Donald Trump now zeroing in on national security in North Carolina yesterday while south of Raleigh. First outdoor rally since last month. Assassination attempt in Pennsylvania. John Ratcliffe, former director of national intelligence, with me now. Sir, nice to have you back. Here we go now, okay? Wall Street Journal editorial board. Foreign policy is where the vice president known unknowns are most troubling. The U.S. faces the greatest security risk since the end of the Cold War and probably since World War II. She has not explained to the public what her core principles are or even who she relies on for foreign policy advice. That's something else. I assume voters will demand some answers on that, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, hopefully they will, Bill. I mean, everything President Trump said is right about the world being on fire. There's not a place you can point to on the map where America's national security posture or interests have improved over the last 4 years with Kamala Harris in the White House. And, you know, we handed them peace in the Middle East, and she and President Biden broke that peace. While they were destroying the American economy, they were rebuilding an Iranian economy that has led to an unnecessary war that's taking place in the Middle East right now. Her role at the border is obvious in terms of the number of millions of people that have come in illegally that will continue to threaten our national security interest. You know, stuck in my mind is that clip where she talks about Ukraine. You know, Ukraine is a country in Europe, and Russia is a country in Europe, and you know, Ukraine was invaded by Russia, and that's a bad thing. I mean, it's kindergarten level approach to geopolitical conflict, and you know, we've just seen the loss of deterrence in this current administration. We've lost deterrence with Russia. We've lost deterrence with Chinese aggression. Peace in the Middle East is gone. All of those things happened with Kamala Harris playing a central role in the Biden-Harris administration. So that doesn't bode well for a Harris-Walz administration looking forward. And I think that certainly has to be something that Americans are going to care about as they go to the voting booth in November.
Yeah, through 3 nights, you're exactly right. I mean, it's barely come up. They barely touched on it. Tim Walz did touch on this, though. He was in the National Guard in Minnesota, served a number of years, and described it this way last night.
Everybody belongs, and everybody has a responsibility to contribute. For me, it was serving in the Army National Guard. I joined up 2 days after my 17th birthday, and I proudly wore our nation's uniform for 24 years. Eventually, like the rest of my family, I fell in love with teaching.
There's a lot of veterans going after him, suggesting that he left his group before they were to be deployed to Iraq. Where do you think that argument goes for the next 2 months?
Well, I think it's important for veterans, particularly. I don't think this is the most important issue in the campaign, but look, you know, we're grateful for anyone who serves our country in the armed forces, and Tim Walz is one of those people. But you know, this wasn't just a momentary misrepresentation about his service. I mean, he presented a challenge coin. You know, a challenge coin is something that we create as political figures that represents who we are. And on that, he said he was a command sergeant major, a rank that he never held. And that's why you see veterans so upset about this issue. And I think that is going to matter to veterans who go, you know, to vote in November, because it's a reflection that, you know, he went out and affirmatively misstated his record intentionally, deliberately, not just a misstatement to the press, but that he, you know, created thousands of coins that he gave to people over years and years that misrepresented who he was. So I think it's important. But I do think what's more important, and what concerns me more importantly, is his terrible record on things like, you know, crime during the summer of 2020, and how he treated his own citizens with COVID restrictions, and you know, his you know, treatment of the gender affirming care, and treating those things as more important than our national security. And you know, that's what frightens me in terms of a Harris-Walz ticket, who between them really have no national security, foreign policy chops, and where they have waded in has been misguided. short-sighted and made a mistake. You know, Kamala Harris talking about Afghanistan as a success and something that she's proud of, when it was, you know, rightfully called by President Trump one of the most humiliating defeats, where, you know, the United States, you know, lost to the Taliban under the Biden-Harris administration.
Yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off there. We're out of time, but thank you for your time. Listen, I think this debate between Walz and Vance, it's going to be a humdinger, as someone used to say. It's really going to be interesting to watch about a month away from now.
Well, put your money on Vance.
All right, we'll see. John Ratcliffe, thank you for your time.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.